Why Curitiba is one of the most sustainable cities? The key driver is one of the mayors go back to 1970s. That mayor is an architect, an urban planner. At that time, he has a vision and the passion to drive the whole city to be sustainable. One of the very famous strategies he adopted is everyone pick up rubbish or waste. They can exchange the bus tickets or lunchbox and they can get the reward. So that really drives the whole city to become more a treasure. Every piece of waste becomes the second resources. The leaders, top down is very, very important, especially when we drive the sustainability. The leadership play a key role.
In a world increasingly facing the challenges of climate change, with the Building Green podcast, we will dive deep into the intersection of architecture, design, urbanism, and environmental responsibility. I'm Ladina Schipp, your host. I've been an architect and building site manager for the past 10 years. During my studies at ETH in Switzerland, as well as in my working environment, I've had many touchpoints with sustainability, like many of you, I guess. I've also learned to question what I've been told, which is why I decided to go deeper into the topic and uncover what sustainability actually means. My mission is to highlight the transformative power of sustainable architecture, not just as a practice, but as a catalyst for broader societal change. Subscribe for more of our content and enjoy the show. Tony, it's a pleasure having you here. I'm really excited to talk with you about sustainable architecture. You're the founder and director of sustainable design at Tony IP Green Architect.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Tony, your journey in sustainable architecture is quite inspiring. Can you share your story and tell me about what sparked this passion for sustainability?
I think my journey to be a sustainable design architect is really quite interesting. Actually, when I was young, in my secondary school, at that time, I really loved drawings. I really loved design. And I really want to be an architect. Such that in the secondary school, I was in a technical secondary school. And then I also self-learned the visual arts because I understand that to be an architect, we have to do drawings very well. However, actually, I couldn't get enrolled in School of Architecture. So my first degree was not in architecture, it was in engineering, civil engineering. At that time, I majored environmental engineering. So it already go back to how many years? Almost. I firstly admitted in the university should be in 1995. So right now, almost 30 years. So, however, because that time I was majoring in environmental engineering, and I really understand that environmental issues back to in 1995, especially the waste issue, the global warming. So after graduation, because of my family background, I really need to have the financial support to my family. So I have to continue to in the engineering field for 3 years. Afterwards, I really saved a little bit money, and then I pursued my dream. I learned architecture on part-time basis for my bachelor degree, and then I went back to school to study my master degree in architecture. At that time, back to 2004, 2005. And one of the very inspiring milestone to me is in the summer of the 2004. At that time, I got in the chance to receive the traveling scholarship by the Hong Kong Institute of Architects. And it gave us the chance to went to one of the most sustainable city in Brazil, which is Curitiba, in the southern part of Brazil. And at that trip, this is a green tour. So I went there with the fellow architects. So I really learned so much in that trip, especially in the city of Curitiba. It's a small city in Brazil, and it's really, really sustainable. Very, very clean. Almost 90% of all the waste can be recycled, reused. And most of the people use the public transport, and they really treat the waste as the resources. So the whole city planning used the finger linear growth, very sustainable. And that made me a quite impact, because in Brazil, in that city, they can keep it so sustainable. Why in our city, Hong Kong, is so well developed? Why we can't just put forward our effort? So, and also at that trip, I met our fellow architects, and so become my mentor, especially in the green building design. So when I went back Hong Kong, I complete my study in architecture, and then I worked as an architect. And I also got the chance in 2010, 11 and 12. At that time, I got the chance to build the first zero carbon building in Hong Kong. And I really learned how to really make a very sustainable, environmental driven projects in our high density, high rise city. So these two impact, I can say, the green tour and the chance to do the zero carbon building really give me the confidence and the knowledge that, I really need to put forward the green building design. And that's why 7 years ago, I established my own firm, Tony Yip Green Architects. And I hope that all the projects I get involved, we can just to implant the green elements, no matter it's a commercial project, it's a community project, or the education residential project. It can also to put forward the social and environmental sustainability. So it's a long story to me, but it gives me a great exposure in the sustainable design.
That's a wonderful story. And it's really clear, like these impacts, these small little things that had like a huge impact in your life and in your story. So if you compare Hong Kong to Curitiba, what do you think is missing? And that was like 20 years ago. You said 2004. So what has happened in Hong Kong since then?
When we talk about the sustainable design, it should be quite site specific. So it's quite difficult to compare whether the green building design in Curitiba is better or Hong Kong is better, because it is totally different context. The first is Hong Kong is a really high density, high rise city. So we are living in a very compact city. So the environmental issue we really need to deal with is how we can make our buildings more permeable, get more daylight, get more natural ventilation. And also the context, and also the climatic context in Hong Kong. We are in the subtropical. We are we have the hot summer and very humid. So compared with the Curitiba, which is not a high density, high rise city, it's a quite low rise, quite widespread. So for Curitiba, they are quite concerned about the urban spiral, quite concerned about the automobile dependent. So they have to eliminate or to minimize the people using the cars. So they should promote, they have promoted more public transport, because really, regarding the carbon emission, if all people just drive with the fossil fuel, that really create an issue. So they really promote, they have a quite systematic public transport system. So, however, compared to Hong Kong, because we are in a very high density, actually the carbon footprint for transport quite low. That makes the building itself contribute 2/3 of the carbon footprint. So we have to make our building more energy saving, carbon neutrality. So that's a total different context. But compared 20 years ago, I can say for Hong Kong, our green building, we have the green building assessment. So for the green building, we have what we call BEAM Plus. Similar to just the US, they use the LEED, UK use BREEAM, Australia use a Green Star. We have our own green building system, and that green building system already established 25 years ago. So right now it's quite mature. Um, However, just 20 years ago, it's not really mainstreaming. So not many people, citizens, know about our green building system. So we have to make more public education, I can say. And in Curitiba, why Curitiba is one of the most sustainable cities? The key driver is one of the mayors go back to 1970s. That mayor is an architect, an urban planner. At that time, he has a great vision and the passion to drive the whole city to be sustainable. So he really made a quite substantial some urban policy. For example, really very advanced. Go back to 1970. They have the main road just to have the policy that main road in the central spine of the city. He banned vehicles there, make it pedestrianized, make it just for people to walk. So it really provides a very safe city spine, so people can gather there, and also have the community facilities and some commercial development in the central spine. So this is a very famous urban planning strategy. It's a linear city center, such that the city can grow because of the linear. It's not just the central spot, so it can make the whole city really very dynamic. At the same time, have a very livable, safe, secure city center for people to enjoy, to work, to play at that city spine. So that urban policy at that time really advanced. And also, as I mentioned, like the over 90% of the waste they can recycle. So one of the very famous tactics or the strategies he adopt is everyone pick up rubbish or waste. They can exchange the bus tickets or lunchbox. So for those people, they find ways. They would not really, okay, this go to rubbish bin. They really get it and then do proper sorting, and they can get the reward. So
wow,
all the waste actually it's not just a waste, it's a resources. So that really drive the whole city to become more a treasure. Every piece of waste becomes the second resources. So some strategies adopted by the government, and the leader has a very clear vision and the passion to drive that really make the whole thing works. So that go back to our city. I think the leaders top down is very important, especially when we drive the sustainability. If we don't have a clear vision, if we don't have the passion to drive through, somehow what we are facing at this moment, or go back to 20 years ago, environmental sustainability is an optional, it's not essential. If the project without money, if the project have the constraint on time, somehow, it's not a green project. We can just cut it down, all the green features, or that may not become a key objective we have to achieve. So the mainstreaming is very important. At that, really the leadership play a key role.
It's so interesting, isn't it? How these different scales play with each other. Like on one hand, like the urban planning, how you put the roads, how you plan the roads, how you use them. And then small things like pick up the trash. It's wonderful. So Tony, you mentioned mission and vision. What is your vision? What's the force that drives you?
My main driver, I really want our city becomes a sustainable city in terms of environmental and social, and especially for the global warming. I think as an architect, we have the responsibility. We are the society designer or the facilitator. We really have to drive it. So, but one of the key things I believe is, I'm not designing a green architecture. I'm designing an architecture for green living. So that is a very important. The architecture itself is a physical thing, even is a very green, very environmental friendly. However, if the people not using it in an environmentally way, not using it in a sustainable way, is not sustainable. So just like, for example, like the air conditioner is a very, very energy efficient. However, every day we have the hot pot. We switch on the air conditioning, and then we really have the hot pot, or we sleep with the thick blanket, and then switch on the air conditioning. So the lifestyle is more important. The behavior change is more important. And another example, like in Hong Kong, we really need to have the more natural ventilation, such that we can minimize to use the air conditioning. If we design the building with the cross ventilation, with more window on different sides, and then you can open the window and have the cross ventilation. However, if those windows are very, very big, and then, like the elderly, they cannot manage to open the window. Even the window open, it can create cross ventilation, but the window is so big, it's not convenient. The end user cannot open it. So that is not really sustainable way. So what I believe is we have to do our architecture or our spatial design to facilitate people to have the low carbon living style or environmentally friendly manner for their living. That's more important. That's why for me, actually, I'm an architect, but I also spend quite a lot of time for education, for advocacy in the public awareness, to get the public engaged in our projects, to work together to co-creation, to get them have the sense of belonging, such that they can manage their life in a more sustainable way, not just receive a good architecture.
And what role do you think the regulations play there? Because I think, for example, in Switzerland, we have quite strong regulations of window sizes and to make sure that there's enough ventilation, but also that the windows are not too big on the southern facade, so the rooms get heated up. What role do you think the regulations play there for you?
Yeah, regulation is very, very important because it can have the mass change. However, like Hong Kong, we also have the regulation or incentive for the private sectors, the private developers, that really help for new buildings. So I think like Hong Kong or in your city, right now we have, especially for the building professional or building industry, they really get sufficient knowledge and skill set to build a new green building or new environmentally driven buildings. The key issue is existing building. How to revitalize the existing building, especially for the old building. So that is the key issue. Like in Hong Kong, we have 80% of the existing building stocks. Among them, half of them already 20, even 30 years old. So for those buildings in the old days, they may not concern about the environmentally friendly. So the window may have the air leakage. The facade may not have a good thermal insulation. So how can we drive those existing buildings to upgrade them, to have the deep retrofitting, to be more energy efficient, to be more environmentally friendly? That becomes the very key issue. Instead of demolish all the old building and have the new one, how can we upgrade adaptively use the old building? And that become the key agenda, and also become part of the key projects. Recently, I really get involved, and I think that is more challenging, but that is more meaningful when we really talk about the sustainable communities.
At your firm, you describe yourselves as architects who specialize in sustainable design and strive to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. There are 6 key principles that you implement to reach that goal, which are green materials and innovation, zero carbon architecture, urban microclimate and passive design, green neighborhood for all, biophilic high-rise living, and green community action. Could you take me through these principles in a way that our listeners can understand how each one actively contributes to a cooler planet?
I can say for that six principle, basically come up with the four key mission. One is the zero carbon, because that's a very, very, very key issue. How can we reduce the carbon emission, limit the global warming? So it depends on the building itself. How can we build it, have the better passive design? How can we really, the building disposition can have the better urban microclimate such that people can use more natural ventilation, more daylight. So that all basically for the new building design. And the second thing is the health and wellness. So that go to two key issues: aging building and aging population. And also like urban citizens, we stay 90% of our times indoor. So how can make the space more healthy, more active living? How to take care of our elderly, and also how to have some buildings to be building the capacity of our health, and how to make the old building revitalize it. So that is the health and wellness. And the third mission is the urban biodiversity, because for the urbanization, especially right now, not just in Hong Kong, I think in most of the urban city right now is extending to the suburban area. So how can we have the human nature co-evolution, especially when we develop the suburban area? We have to take care of our ecosystem, not to eliminate them. The nature is not just for human consumption. At the same time, in the central district, the urban dweller, especially our next generation, the younger generation, how can make them have more interaction with the nature, even they are living in the central district. And the last mission is resilience, the climate resilience. So how to, especially for the climate change, how can make our city more resilient to the future? Let's say more rainfall, more natural disaster, hot days, especially for those low income. They're living in a quite not really up to standard environment. So these four missions are really driving what our project is. Of course, I start my vision back to 7 years ago. I really want to have our knowledge to contribute to limit the global warming not more than 1.5 degrees Celsius. Of course, right now at that time, especially last year, already report that actually we already exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius. But no matter how we really try our great effort, hope that we can just to mitigate what we did. Yeah.
You mentioned so many things I would like to go deeper into. Let's start with more interaction with nature. I had a podcast interview with Kelai Diebel. She works for Moss. They are makers of sustainable spaces in Amsterdam. They implement a lot of greenery, indoor greens in office spaces, but also on roofs. And they also want to bring in more nature into cities by making office buildings very, very green. She also talked about studies, how people behave differently, or the body behaves differently when there is more nature around you. And by bringing in urban farming on rooftops and in any areas they can in the cities. What are your approaches there? Do you have any project where you brought in more nature?
Yes, I can give you two examples. Actually, one of the examples I really proud of, because it's really, really rewarding. In our contest, we have so many undesignated urban space. So there's a project that I revitalized the undesignated space under the flyover in the central district. That is a pilot project. We collaborate with a numbers of the urban organic farmers. We work together, and we get a piece of land just 4 months, and under the flyover in our CBD, Central Business District. So that vacant land, actually no one used it before, except for smokers. They go there, do smoking. No one go there. However, because we have some intervention on that space, we set up the improvised community farm. We have a container that becomes a education hub. We organize the workshop for children on the weekends. We set up the urban farm with we used timber pallet, set up the farm, and we organize the workshop every day. And that engaged more than 200 locals, especially for the workers just working adjoining the office building. Every day they go there, they plant their own vegetables. And at the lunchtime, we organize the workshop. So it really, really rewarding, because before that was a dead space. No one go there. However, we just do some intervention. It becomes a social hub. That's the one thing. The second thing is we really found that many urban dwellers, they really love planting, gardening. They share the experience with the farmer that, they have their own plant in the office or at home. Because the farmer, another rewarding experience that we really connect those farmer and the urban dweller. Before the farmers, they just stay in the rural areas. And that really get the chance that, actually the urban dweller, they love gardening, but they don't know how to plant it in a better way. And the farmer really love to share the experience. Okay, you can use that organic fertilizer. So that really create a dialogue. And also they really can join together the plant. We within the 4 months, we got 3 batches of harvest. And then we share each other. We cook as on site. And that really have a very enjoy moments for the whole community. And that become a good example to the government that we are not need a vacant land. We just find some undesignated space in the urban city. And then we get some intervention, the spatial design. And then we have the proper activities. And that become a social hub. And that this experience already 2017, right now already 7 years ago, that gave me the chance that I really got the job to revitalize another undesignated space under the flyover. And that I collaborate with another architect. We work together to design the urban forestry education center under the flyover, also to revitalize the undesignated space. So that very important, that can justify that actually many urban dwellers, they love to interact with the nature, and just what can provide the chance for them. And the second project that when we talk about the nature, it's not just the greenery. Let's say the simple thing is you can see the sky, you can feel the daylight. So that is also another just recently completed project. That is a revitalize a historical building already 102 years ago. And we revitalized it for the Hong Kong Repertory Theatre to make it as a performing art education center. So one of the key features is we get all the normally occupied space with daylight. So like the central staircase, we open up the ceiling, the roof, to get more daylight inside. Actually, it seems to be very simple just to turn it into skylight. However, it's very difficult because it's a historical building. It's a graded building. We have to convince the authority that, we really get more daylight to really revitalize the whole building. So this project just completed early this year. And as a result, it's really a fantastic project because all the people really enjoy the space inside. They really have the good health and wellness and get more in touch with the nature, can see in the sky inside the very, very old building. And we give it a second life, or not the second, already 120 years ago, already I don't know, the third or fourth generation of that building. So somehow this is the mission I really want to pursue, and that really can get more chance for the urban dweller. They can get more in touch with the nature. They can understand the nature, the climate.
A few of you might know that I recently opened my own architecture studio and I just started with the podcast. I'm very excited to build a platform where I connect with inspiring people to learn along the way and share these learnings with you. So if any little thing has inspired you or if you learned anything new, I'd appreciate if you could rate the show or share my content on social media, Spotify or YouTube or wherever you listen to it. And if you think there are any touch points between you and me, I'd be super happy to connect with you. Feel free to reach out on any platform. And when talking about these core principles, you also mentioned zero carbon, and you also said you had the opportunity to build the first zero carbon building in Hong Kong. Can you explain how you did that? What made it be zero carbon?
Okay, so that already go back to 12 years ago. At that time, I worked in one of the largest architectural firms in Hong Kong, which is the Ronald Lu and Partners. At that time, I worked for them to build the first zero carbon building in Hong Kong. Actually, how to make the zero carbon? Zero carbon means that the building itself can generate renewable energy without using the fossil fuel, and that can compensate the energy consumed inside the building, plus some embodied energy during construction. So that is the definition. So how to make it? Basically, there are three principles. The first one is the most important, and then second and the third one. The first one is the passive design. Passive design means that the building orientation, the building configuration can fully utilize daylight and natural ventilation. So without any mechanical means, can make the people feel comfortable inside. So it depends on the building orientation, whether we can have the bigger window or, for example, in Hong Kong, we have the bigger window on the north and south facade, minimize the window on east and west to minimize the solar heating. And we have the analyze the prevailing wind such that in the suitable seasons, just opening those windows, people feel comfortable inside. So that is the passive design, most important. And then in Hong Kong, because we have the hot summer, even we have the really lateral ventilated layout, we really need air conditioning. So the second strategy is energy efficient active system, including the very energy efficient air conditioning system, the LED lighting system, use the minimal energy, can also to operate the mechanical means, make people feel comfortable. So like the underground air system, like the very effective low speed, high volume ceiling fan. So different strategies. And with the active system, the passive design, the zero carbon building already save compared with the similar size, 45% in terms of the energy consumption. And for the rest, we have to offset. So that in that particular building, the renewable technologies to offset, including the solar energy, the PV panels. We have the three different types of PV panels. The traditional type, the polycrystalline, some advanced type like the building integrated photovoltaic, so and so. And the other thing is the biofuel. Make use of the residual treated cooking oil to operate the bio tri-generator. So with that can offset the residual carbon or the energy. So that is what the zero carbon building back to 12 years ago. And actually, recently, our firm also did some upgrading works because for the zero carbon building or zero carbon park, it's not just the building itself to make it zero carbon. It also helped to, as a test bed, to illustrate, to demonstrate some new technology. So we have two new technology inside the zero carbon, but just recently complete, or just the recent 3 to 4 years ago. One is the AIPV canopy. That AIPV stand for Air Improvement Photovoltaic. So that photovoltaic is very interesting, transparent. It still can receive the solar. At the same time, it can purify the air, like Hong Kong, because this side quite near the roadside. So the air pollutants becomes one of the key issues. So that PV panel can purify, decompose the air pollutants. At the same time, it can receive the solar. So we have that is the first application in Hong Kong. We have that canopy pavilion there, just adjoining the cafe. So it provides really comfortable outdoor space for people having coffee there. And the second installation, we recently did almost 3 years ago. That is the EMMIC stormwater cooling. EMMIC stand for modular integrated construction. EM stand for electrical and mechanical. And stormwater cooling, it means that, okay, in the zero carbon park, that site, we have a very big box cover underground. That is the underground drainage receiving the rainwater for part of adjacent district. So that stormwater just underground actually is a really good means to drive the air conditioner, because for the water underground, they are in a quite stable or lower temperature in the summer and hotter temperature in the winter. So we have the heat exchanger extract the storm water, and then it can drive the air conditioning and for the zero carbon building. So for that, really what we call make use of the wastewater to generate the energy. And the EMMIC stand for, because that zero carbon park is in operation, we try to minimize the disturbance to the existing park. So we make use of the modular integrated construction method. That means that in the factory, already set up all the things inside the modular, including the equipment, test it in the factory, and then just decompose that whole installation into 2 pieces, and then transport to the site, install just overnight. And then, because that is a modular, just on site, okay, assembly it just one night, and then can do the testing and commissioning, and it can operate. So it really environmentally friendly and minimize the disturbance of the normal operation. So that 2 projects I just told you that keep the zero carbon park further justifying some technology if the part that works, and then it can applicable to other scale up to other projects in Hong Kong.
So you also try to make sure to reduce the energy consumption during the construction process, like the gray energy.
That becomes another issue, is what we call the embodied energy or embodied carbon. So for the carbon neutrality, one is the operating carbon. So for the building, like if make it more passive design, have more daylight, use less energy for air conditioning or lighting, that is the operating carbon. And in construction, especially what I'm recently put forward is the material circularity. How can we use the material with less embodied carbon? Embodied carbon stands for the carbon in the life cycle, like the carbon we lit or the energy consumption for raw material extraction, transport to the factory, during the manufacturing process, the energy consumed or carbon emission, and then transport to the site, and during the installation. So the whole thing, how can we calculate the embodied carbon? And also, if we make use of more recycled materials, and then we can have the material circularity, also that also can help to reduce the embodied carbon. So like what the project I just told you, that the heritage revitalization project for that 120 years old, that old building, that project, we also put forward the material circularity. Just for one example, that project before the Performing Art Education Center, actually that was a school for several operators just for the previous 100 years. And one of the things becomes the Performing Art Education Center. We have to replace all the windows because the windows are very old, air leakage, and not really energy efficient, because that is a single panes. So the thermal insulation is very poor. So we have to we need to demolish all that window, and also the noise, the acoustic performance is not good. So we have to demolish all the windows, replace all the windows. For the windows, the steel frame is very valuable, because it can almost all the steel can be recyclable. So it has the value. The recycle contractor, they got all the window frame. However, the glass panes, no use. So it may go to the landfill site. So we try to minimize that glass panes. We collect all the glass panes, and we find a manufacturer. They can make use of the glass panes to make a new glass blocks. So that glass blocks becomes the new material for the project. We make use of that new glass blocks for partition inside the building. So that becomes what in our project at the very, very beginning, before we kickstart all the design, we will go to the site, especially for the existing building. We have the material audit. We found what the material on site. Actually, we can make use of that existing material, become part of our design. That is very, very important. That is really the mindset change. Because before, or normally the designer, we design like a table. We design the table, the form, the shape, the color, and then we find suitable material. However, what the material circularity is, we are not kickstart the form of the product. We kickstart is what the material on hand, such that we base on the existing material and try to shape it into the proper function to serve the function we are going to have. So that example, the new glass box, really make a very amazing, rewarding design for us, because we really can minimize the waste, and we present it. And also it has a very meaningful story, because that becomes part of the history, right? And the outlook is really, really nice. What we call the imperfect perfect. Because, for the natural environment, like when we talk about like the marble, we have the marble surface. Somehow you may find some imperfect, some spots there, some stains there, and then you may ask to replace it. It's not really nice. It's not so beautiful. However, if that is make use of the recycled content, every piece of the panel are different, because they are different. So the imperfect thing becomes perfect. It becomes the beauty. So that also a very interesting design. I think that is go back to the material circularity, and then really can help to reduce the embodied carbon as well.
So the story is what makes it then perfect or beautiful. So I wonder about costs there, because I feel like the biggest challenge in reusing materials, or one of the biggest challenges, is the cost of it. That people want to build the best and most beautiful building with the least cost possible. And I have the feeling that often reusing materials is more expensive than buying new ones.
Yes or no? Okay. So I think, I already give me a very challenging background, because most of our projects, I can say, not from commercial developers. I think almost 75, 80% of my projects, the project owners are NGOs, are institutions. They have very stringent budget control. So I really want to demonstrate that even you have the budget control, you can still have the good, sustainable design, environmentally driven design. There are two things that green building is not really expensive than the normal building, I can say. One thing is, especially for energy efficiency, we talk about the life cycle cost, like the LED lighting. Of course, the capital costs are a little bit higher. However, it saves the energy in operation. So the operating cost really low. So that is the life cycle costing. The second thing is, very interesting. The value or the judgment of the building before. Okay, let's say we decide a lobby. If normally we want to make the lobby more pleasant, more beautiful, and then we may install the very how to say elegant ceiling lamp. Maybe it is imported from Italy, or we have the marble flooring. Maybe the marble come from Spain. So all the thing is luxurious, very elegant. On the other hand, if we go for the sustainable design, let's say we incorporate the nature. So the lobby, we try to get more daylight. We have some indoor plants. We have some very comfortable timber bench there. You can see, I think right now, more people will opt to the second option, more nature-based environment. But you can see that the second option must be cheaper than the first one. So somehow it's not really expensive, but it depends on how you convince the client, how you offer the second option.
So, Tony, you're really at the forefront of sustainable architecture in Hong Kong. In your view, to make cities more resilient to future, what is like the key ingredients that are necessary to make sustainable architecture the norm?
The key is the behavior change of all people. So we are really all people work together. I can say, as I mentioned, to design a green building is not difficult. However, how can we change our behavior in a more sustainable way? That is more challenging. So just for example, right now in Hong Kong, we are talking about how we reduce the municipal waste. So we are right now the government really put forward the charge of our municipal waste. So it already gives quite many challenges or hurdles from the general public. They think that is really inconvenient, and they think that is really they have to pay more because the polluter pay principle. So how to make the people or general public, they really feel the climate urgency. They really feel that they have the responsibility to work together to drive the sustainable community. So that becomes more important. So that's why what we do right now is when we do the design, we have to have more public engagement. So they have the sense of belonging there. They understand the design principle. They become part of the designer, I can say. They co-create together such that when they use it, they really find that, oh, we have to use it in a more sustainable way. And the other is, we are not just talking about a single building to be a green building. How can we create a community, the sustainable neighborhood? So as I mentioned before, how can we revitalize more urban space for urban farming, for the community use, for exchange of the recyclables, for more outdoor activities instead of just stay inside in an air-conditioned space. So all that thing is how can we create more comfortable, like let's say the communal green spaces, encourage more outdoor living. So that beyond a single building, we create the placemaking for the district and creating momentum for the community, involving different stakeholders, such that in operation phases become really sustainable, not just in the design stage, we are designing a sustainable building or city.
Is there like a sustainable project anywhere in the world that stands out for you?
I think when I did the zero carbon building at that time, we really looked into the one of the earliest zero carbon estates that is in UK, the Bassett. So the whole residential area back to year 2000 at that time, they adopted one planet principles. So people stay there, they share, they have the carpool, They have the community living room. They sometimes they cook together. They share resources. Their own building zero carbon. They reduce the waste. So that is a really good example. It's not just to have a single zero carbon building, but they create the zero carbon community. And also the one planet principle is very important. The nature is not just for human consumption. How can we upkeep our nature, the different ecosystems? So I think that is one of the best example. Of course, in the city basis, as what I mentioned at the very beginning, Curitiba, that really, for me, especially for me, really inspired me that in Brazil, there's a small city. Even that small city, lack of natural resources, it can still be so sustainable. So, so those examples really inspire me and keep me driving our daily work. We have the responsibility and we really need to do more sustainable design.
That's wonderful. I have one last question for you looking into the future. Is there, or what emerging trends or technologies in sustainable architecture excite you the most?
Oh, I think the digital twin. So, digital twin means that in the virtual reality, have the same model of the real building, such that in the virtual reality or in the computer, it can estimate the performance. It can monitor the performance of the building, even estimate if there is a natural disaster, if there is the climate change, how the end user or the building can cope with the future change. And more important is it have the proper data monitoring and then set the target and really drive advancing the net zero. So we need to have the performance data. We have the proper target. We set the target and then we cope with the climate risk, and that the digitalization, the AI can help us in future.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm also looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Tony, for your insights. If our listeners want to follow your work or everything you do at the office, where can they find you?
You can go to my website, www.tonyyip.green. Yes, or my LinkedIn.
Okay, cool. I'll connect your links. Is there anything else you want to share before we end the episode?
I really hope that everyone really take action. I think sustainability is because when I was young or when I was student, I learned that we are doing the sustainable design for our next generation. We really hope that our next generation can share the same resources what we have. However, right now, we really have the climate urgency. We are not really, sustainable design is not for next generation. Definitely it's for our generation. So it's the time we take action. It's not the time we are saying that how to do. It's the time we have to do.
That's a great ending. Thank you very much, Tony. It's been super inspiring.
Thank you.
A huge thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you listen to the podcast to support me and so you don't miss an episode. And while you're there, I'd also be so grateful if you could rate and review us. If you have any guest suggestions or any feedback, you can find me on the socials at Latina Schipf. Thanks.